Hi folks, it's John from lastchanceautorestore.com. I'd like to share with you another update. This is the Factory 5 Racing Type 65 Coupe. So this is based on the Shelby Daytona car. In a previous video we were at the front end and we were talking about bodywork and driving lights. Now we've continued on with the progress. It doesn't look like much, but this is a lot of work, and this is another 3-ish days worth of work, 3 or 4. So we now have this wonderful polished fuel filler installed, and it's a nice authentic style with the double seal. It's spring loaded, so it's a really nice setup. So we have that installed. We had to modify a little bit to fit it in. You'll notice we didn't do the body work yet, but we're dry fitting all these items, and then we'll remove that to continue on the body work. The other nice thing, or the exciting thing we've done, is this rear glass hatch. And this was, believe it or not, a lot of work. So in the instruction manual from Factory 5, they recommend that you go ahead and you do the body work and the paint on the car, and then when it comes back, that's the time you should install this rear glass and hatch assembly and the latch mechanism. I strongly suggest you do not do that, and the reason for it is the fit. The difference between the fiberglass body being assembled and whoever the manufacturer is for the glass, they're not exactly the same in size. So we had to modify the body, which we'll share with you in a moment. So we had to modify the body to get the glass in the correct position, and then they went ahead and they assembled the latches and the rear. So wonderful engineering. We love the quality. So if the camera person can come a little bit closer here. I apologize for all the dust. So they do a wonderful job with this glass. The shape is very, very similar to the body, and they have this beautiful hardware. So what you do is you just simply push down on this button, and then you turn it like a dial, and it releases the catch. And look at how nice that is. So from an engineering and design standpoint, it's wonderful in my opinion. So this is really nice. But to get the glass to fit, there's a lot of modifications that we had to do, what we refer to as dry fitting. So the camera person will start on this side. So when we adjust it takes a lot of back and forth and on and off to make sure that you have it adjusted properly. So in the rear of the hatch, you have to cut openings out for clearance because they don't do any of that in the fiberglass stage. So that's solid. So you can see there's still some measuring marks because you have to be very, very careful. We have dead center and that we have all the markings that we need for clearance. So right now we've just temporarily installed this hardware. We're going to clean this up and we'll sandblast and powder coat a lot of the items after it's disassembled. This is engineered very, very well in my opinion. You've got the simple rear strut shocks, but then you have this beautiful mounting hardware that goes to this roll bar, and it's polished. So it's really nice quality stuff. So with that all set and adjusted, then it became a concern because we adjusted it so many times to get the best fit. You can see here along this driver's side, we didn't have to do any body work or anything on this part or coming down this section. But roughly starting halfway down to this bottom corner, you can see we started to remove material, but we had to move a considerable amount of fiberglass material down in this area because from the mold, the fiberglass was too far in and there wasn't enough clearance. The actual glass edge corner was hitting the body. So we've temporarily set in these little pieces of tubing because this is the same height as the glue-on weather stripping, and obviously we don't want to glue the weather stripping on until after the car is painted, but this gives us the height that we need to do the dry fitting. So considerable amount of work here, but then it was worse on the passenger side. So what we'll do is we'll trade positions with the camera person. So on this top side, basically all the way down had to be shaved. So this part was not close. Now part of it could be the way they've patched or assembled all of these individual panels, because there's a lot of grooves. Nothing is flush between the top panel, the side panel, this insert and the roof line. You can see, probably can't see it really in the video, but we've got, I wouldn't say a 1/4 inch, but a really heavy 1/8 inch that this panel is sticking up compared to the other panels. So we've got, obviously there's a little bit of allowance there. So with this glass, when we tried to set it up, there was no clearance whatsoever on this whole side. So it was basically, the glass was sitting on top of the body. So we had to remove a substantial amount of material, not so much down this bottom corner, but from this point all the way to the very top of the roof line. So for those of you watching this, this is actually broken through the fiberglass. So we actually have peekaboo holes here. Now our customer's going to see that and go, oh my goodness, what did they do to my car? But this is not an issue, because what we're going to do is we have a high quality resin fiberglass stuff or material that we use, and we were actually we'll redo this from the back side. So we'll give it extra strength, and then it'll just be filler on here that will be butting up against the resin and the fiberglass matting. So from in behind, we'll build that up and give it some structural support and strength, and then this will just be cosmetic, which we'll do a little bit later on. So if you imagine following the instructions where they suggest have your car painted, body and paintwork done, then go ahead and do the glass near the end, this, in my opinion, would be a nightmare. This car is going to be two-tone, and it would be crazy to have to go through all this work. It would be a shame after it's all painted. So this is a really important idea. To dry fit it first, the rear hatch, you can see it's just a simple little latch with a spacer, and once again we've got some rough marking lines there. We had to make sure it was the right spot, but we're really happy with it, because now when it opens and closes, the spacing, as you can see, so I think the camera person can show, so now we've got the correct spacing between the body and the glass all the way around. The top center part of the fiberglass is a little bit higher than the glass, where it's almost flush here. So we'll be able to work that a little bit when we go to do our body work. We'll bring it down some so it won't be so dominant. So the curve is just a little bit different between the glass and the body, but we'll be working on that a little bit later. And then same thing with the spacing down the other side. Now keep in mind the weather stripping goes in there, which will fill all that in, and it will have the glass sitting in the right position. The other thing I wanted to point out, just quickly, we now have all of the panels, pardon me, all of the panels installed inside. So these were all just bare metal aluminum. The client did a lot of dry fitting to this front piece and to this panel here. They had all the holes drilled and popped it into place. They didn't have the inspection plates on, and they didn't have the side panels on. And I think part of the difficulty was the panels needed to be trimmed and modified quite a bit to fit in there and get the proper shape. And then this back panel wasn't installed either. So something that's different that you see, and there's like overspray on these panel inserts and along the edges. And what that is, we did the bottom side or the back side of all of these panels in powder coating. So we do the powder coating in-house. So for example, this is the bare aluminum like you see here. So this is a panel for another section of the car. This is all going to be treated with a sound insulation. So we don't need to powder coat this side. But then we've done this really nice texture, kind of like a wrinkle effect powder coating. So it's a satin black. It protects and seals it. So if you imagine the back side of each one of these panels is now powder coated like this. So when we went to reinstall these panels, in a later video we'll share with you what it looks like underneath, because now when the car's up on the hoist or at a car show, when you look under, instead of seeing bare aluminum, you now are going to see this black texture. It doesn't catch your eye. It's a nice contrast against the powder coated frame. So just quickly, a couple things to point out. For access, you're never going to need to go in that front section. So we've went ahead and we've poppered it all back in place where it should go. Same thing with this center section. We've poppered it all in place. But you can see these two inspection panels. These are access panels. One is for the fuel sending unit and the other is for the fuel pump, which is down below. They recommend that you pop rivet this lid closed on both sides. I disagree because it'll be a pain for the guys to service later on. So we're just going to we just use self-tapping screws which are removable. And then in this back panel, they recommend that when you insert this panel, which has access to your tail lights, license plate light, and all the accessories in the back of the car, they recommend the same thing, that you just pop rivet it all together. My opinion, I disagree. So what we did, you're going to need to service or maintain the bulbs over time in the back, and you're going to want access to wiring. So rather than having it pop riveted solid and having to drill all the rivets out, we have threaded inserts that have been, so we drilled into the support rail, we drilled holes a little bit larger than the pop rivet hole, we installed aluminum threaded inserts, and now these are bolted in and they're removable. So this is a much better way to go. So this is stainless steel hardware. We've got the insert right into the frame, and the guys haven't tightened this down, but when you go to put that down, there's absolutely no movement with them screwed into place. And then later on in life, if they have to do any maintenance to the back, it'll be very simple because this gets sound deadener and carpeting. So what we'll do along this section of carpet is we'll just have Velcro on the bottom side. You'll just be able to flip the carpet back, access to the screws. This panel can come out to do any servicing. Same thing for these two pockets. We'll put sound insulation on the main panel, and then this door itself will have its own sound insulation with these screws exposed. So if you ever have to go in there to maintain or replace the sending unit, you can simply just remove it and then place it back in and lay the carpet back in. So that's the back hatch area, and then just the back of the car, the lighting is poor. But you can see in the back just a couple little subtle things. We've installed our license plate bracket and our license plate light, obviously with the light facing down. So now we have the tail lights the client had fitted in previously. These are LEDs. Our client wants to go with incandescent bulbs, more of the period of a 65 car. So we have them on order, and we've got our factory 5 license plate bracket and then the really nice light. So later what we'll do, after all the dry fitting is done, we'll remove this and we'll sandblast and powder coat it, because this is just mild steel. So we'll powder coat it black. It's something you don't see, but when the license plate's bolted on, later on that won't rust or bleed rust marks through. So lots of progress. When we're talking in the video, it looks, wow, look at that, it looks simple. But this is roughly with the tin work, the glass and the adjustments, and you're looking at almost 4 days, 4 full days of work just in this section. But it's looking really nice. We really like the overall look, and the quality of the glass and the latches and the fuel tank is very, very nice. So that's a brief update. This is the Factory 5 Racing Type 65 Coupe based on the Shelby Daytona. And I thank you for watching. I'm John from lastchanceautorestore.com.